Hi everyone, this is audap. Let's check out Darius Cozmic Collection on PlayStation 5, although this is actually a PlayStation 4 game running under backwards compatibility. Now, this game I covered on the Switch pretty thoroughly, but this release is also available on the PlayStation 4. Strangely enough, not available on the Xbox, so really just Switch and PlayStation 4. If you purchase this and you end up purchasing both, then in order to change versions on the PlayStation 5, you'll have to hit these the expansion dots and then select which version that you want. But the game itself only appears under Darius Cozmic Collection as a single item. So with that in mind, now the same criticisms can be leveled against this version that were leveled against the Switch version, in that the price is high, right? The arcade version collection is going for 45 USD, and the console collection version is going for 60 USD. So not cheap games by any stretch of the imagination. So you have to be a real fan in order to ingest that price, and I am. I'm a fan. These games are really available. They aren't available in any other collection in any other way. So this is the only way you get to play them. And they included quite a lot of versions with this, in their arcade release. Not 100% complete, but it is complete for many of the older games. The other Darius games appeared on consoles. And the console version, again, doesn't include every single Darius game, but includes all of the early games, going back from the TurboGrafx up to the Saturn, I think. I don't think the PlayStation versions made it on there. Now, these original versions of Darius, this version of Darius, by the time you get to the last boss, the final last boss, the sperm whale, it is nearly impossible. This first version, that sperm whale has an incredible amount of hit points. So they did make some adjustments to the overall difficulty and balance in the game with the new version, and then they further refined it with the extra version. So depending on which one you want to play, the same content basically exists. It's just that the balance is different between the versions. So I think with the one that I play is the new version. This version assumes that you have a fully powered ship in the latter half of the game, which may not be the correct assumption, because these games are hard. They're not easy games. And the original version I don't even play anymore, just because the final boss is just impossible. Or for me it is. I can't beat it, and I've tried many times. Even with the quick save version, or even with the quick load and quick save option that's available on these, I just have too hard of a time. But let's play this version, since that's the version that I'm more familiar with. Not that I'm going to do any good at this. But we'll just play them real fast. Again, it's not going to be a real comprehensive coverage. I already did that with the Switch version. The Switch version and this version are really the same. There's not much difference between the two, except the resolution, or I guess I should say the frame of this game. The frame resolution is higher than the Switch, so it goes beyond 1080p, depending on your TV setup. But but the container inside, the base resolution, I think that's still only 1080p at the most. It's probably a little bit lower than that, just based on the image quality. I don't know, these are classic games. I mean, this and Ninja Warriors, I love these 3-screen games. I wish there were more of these things that existed. And for a while, there were a couple games that were 3 screens and multiplayer. Konami made, I think the X-Men was a 3-screen game. Tecmo Bowl was a 3-screen game as well. And again, you have the option of changing the frame around the game to display all the information that I do, the score and the instructions. Yeah, this version is, as I said, it is essentially just like the Switch version in that oh my goodness, really? Okay. Yeah, they're virtually identical as far as how they play, their responsiveness, all the options, all of that's the same. Again, the frame container could potentially be higher, you know, if you have a 720p set or you know, a 4K set. You know, the system will scale appropriately with the container, but as I said, inside that container is just going to be a 1080p game. But as I said, it might be a little bit less than 1080p based on what I'm seeing here. You know, obviously the original game was not a 1080p game. You know, I think each monitor was 320 by 180 or maybe 210 or something like that. Not super high resolution. Yeah, the arcade version featured real heavy subwoofers, so the machine would actually kind of rumble a bit when you were playing, which is cool, you know, when it worked. Depending on when you played it and how old the machine was, it may have been a feature that might have been on or off. You know, really, so your experience might be a little bit different depending on when and where you played it. But when it did work, it was a really cool thing. This thing really boomed. Yeah, it's hard to understate the spectacle of this game, you know, it just being such a huge cabinet and having, you know, 3 screens, which were smaller screens kind of stitched together. And the cabinet was kind of deep, so you had to look into it quite a bit, but it was impressive. Certainly when you consider just all the other games around it just being single screen stand-up machines, this one definitely stood out. And with it being so, you know, loud and bassy, it was hard not to notice the game. Yeah, I did a lot of A/B comparisons when I purchased this version too, and really, I couldn't tell the difference between the two. It just looks so similar. So it's not any better to get it on one system or another if you happen to own both. You know, you're getting the same experience either way. It just depends on if you want the Switch version for its portability, or if you think you're just primarily going to be a gamer that plays at home, then maybe you'd prefer the PlayStation 4 version. You know, or maybe have a controller preference. You know, I don't know. Those are the only factors that really come into play. The games themselves are exactly the same. Ooh, boy. Blew my shield over there. Oh, the classic TAITO soundtrack. I mean, this and Ninja Warriors were just some of the best sounding games. TAITO really had some great musicians back then. You know, even since the days of like Roston, they always had a very, very unique sound. Yeah, they tried to simulate the bass with the rumble. So I think rumbles a lot. You can turn it off, of course. All right, here I am, just totally getting into this game. So let's look at the other games real fast as well. Alright, Darius 2, that's the 2-screen version, and then SAGAIA, which were later releases only as a single screen. I mean, SAGAIA originally released as a single screen game, so just a single stand-up kept it, and then a special 2-screen release was made later on. This is my preference, is to play the 2-screen version. At first I thought this game's music wasn't as good as the original, but I've come to really like it. Well, it's definitely a much different game than the original. You know, there's a lot more going on, a lot more enemies, a lot more bullets. The patterns are much more chaotic, the action's a lot faster, so they really amped it up. Just before the boss. Or, well, not really a boss, I guess mini boss. Yeah, personally, I prefer to play on the Switch. I like that controller a little better. Although playing with the DualSense, I actually like the DualSense a little bit better. So now I'm now I just have to decide, you know, which version I'd rather play more, and which controller I like more on which day. I have a lot better storage options on the Switch, so I'm trying not to load this PlayStation 5 up too much because, you know, I've just got barely any room in this thing. And then having Sony lock out the NVMe port, you know, the storage expansion, you know, until they feel like releasing a firmware update is, I don't know. I don't like the decision. Okay, so that's right. The SAGAIA is like a it's like a Reader's Digest version. I mean, it's a short version of Darius. And Darius 2 features every single stage, and SAGAIA is like a cut-up version of that game. So you only get half the number of stages. I'm really not sure what they were thinking when they did this. You know, even your opening stage is different. All right. I mean, you still want a thing called tuna sashimi, but it's quite a bit different. At least I figure our tiny, you know, our tiny North American brains couldn't handle that many levels. Hard to say. You know, look how short these stages are. It's just crazy. Thankfully, the version of SAGAIA that's on the Mega Drive or the Genesis is actually Darius 2. So just with the SAGAIA name. At least I think so. That's what I remember. That's what I remember, since the stages were pretty long in that game. Yeah, this game feels kind of like a ripoff, you know? Like you're shortchanged so many levels in this game. Or in this version of the game. And I've always said I've always been a big fan of these arcade compilations. Generally, we see a lot of compilations from console versions, and I personally was never that big into the early consoles. You know, obviously had them and played them, but I always preferred, you know, the arcade look and feel of things. You know, with some rare exceptions, there were definitely some games that were made better on console. You know, due to them being focused not so much on just, you know, quick, fast gameplay, but something that was longer lasting. You know, Bionic Commando always being like the best example of that, or Rygar. You know, comparing the NES version to the arcade. I mean, there's no contest that the NES versions are better. Not in terms of graphics, but in terms of gameplay and something that you'd really, really remember. Ooh, finally get to select a stage. They're almost exactly the same, though. Yeah, they really went all out with the layering of the graphics. You know, whereas the original game was very, very simple. Hold on a minute. Okay, delivery. Alright, where were we? Like in the middle of dying or something like that? Yeah, a little bit of a callback to the original game, this level. Ah, son of a bitch. But then they switch it up and as you descend downward. Alright, what else are we looking at? I think we are looking at Darius Gaiden. Yeah, the arcade version. The Saturn version got a version as well. And I think they're largely the same. At least playing through this, this is what I remember the Saturn version being like. You know, the Saturn version has some loading in between, but that was the only thing I could really recall of being being terribly different. Of course, now that we're playing a single-screen game only. I think I've seen versions of this game that were modified to fit onto the 3-screen cabinet. But I don't know if there was an official 3-screen PCM of this, or a 3-screen arcade board of this. I don't think there was, as far as I know. I'm sure I could be proven wrong. Of course, the only time I ever played this was on the Saturn. You know, I didn't have an arcade machine available that had this game. in my arcades. Arcades were still, alive and well back when this was released. Wasn't quite the death knell for them. Yeah, again, I always felt that this soundtrack wasn't quite as good as the other games, but I have come to appreciate it over the years. I still don't think it's as good as Darius 1 and 2. It's just got such a weird feel to it. But, it's okay to experiment a little bit with sound. I think any musician should ever be detracted from trying something new. Much as fans love to just hear the same thing over and over again. Yeah, it's kind of cool how they do these faded transitions into new stages instead of just like a hard black screen, Either the music transitions over, not just a straight cut over with some dead silence. Yeah, I wish the shmup genre wasn't dead, but it is basically dead. A few standard games get made here and there, and indies are still keeping it alive somewhat. Although the quality is, it's always just such a crapshoot with quality. A lot of indie developers, they have a good heart, but they just capture just the basic. My ship can move and shoot. They don't really get the heart of the game, of the genre, a lot of times. Putting enemies on the screen and putting attack patterns, it's not enough. You really have to understand, the moment-to-moment, excitement, when things should be slow and when things should be fast, and when to fill the screen with things, and, at, what time do you really put the boss battle in there? How difficult should it be? All those things are not easy to, put into words. They're much harder to do than you really think they are until you sit down and get a game creator and realize that, oh gosh, this is a lot of skill. This is harder than it looks. Left and right? Oh, it's left and right. Turbo name entry. Look at that. Oh, the extremely impatient. So there you go. That was the Darius Cozmic Collection. This one is the arcade version. The console version, I'll cover at a later date. I'm pretty sure people are Darius'd out with as much Darius as I've covered. But yeah, check it out. Again, I know it's a more expensive title, but I feel these games are worth it. They're still timeless. They're still challenging and fun, and there aren't that many games even being made nowadays that can really compete with the legacy of Darius. And these games are good games. So check it out if you'd like. I know I'll be playing them for quite a long time. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.